So welcome to our full body meeting, the Redding Consortium. We're glad to have folks here with us at Dell Tech Storage Campus in Wilmington. This is a hybrid meeting, so we do have members also joining us online as well as in person. Our plan for today is to discuss redistricting project updates in terms of talking specifically about what occurred at our June subcommittee retreat. And we're going to focus a little bit on the district modeling scenario data, the redistricting options discussion that was had, and the refined list of big ideas for further opportunities for action from our approved interim plan that we passed last May. So just to get us going, I will talk through meeting norms for anyone who's joining us for the first time. A few important reminders for our meeting this evening, because we are in a hybrid format. We ask if you can do your best to remember to announce your name before speaking in order to identify yourself. That's online and in person. And for those who are online, when you are not speaking, please mute yourself. And also for everyone, just FYI, we are recording this meeting and it will be posted for further viewing for those who are not able to join us tonight. Consortium members online, we would ask that you type your name into the chat for roll call so we can make sure that we did not miss anyone. And as a reminder, we have educational leaders and students from Delaware State University and Institute for Public Administration. Wave. They are our staff members who provide critical support for the Redding Consortium, without which we could not function. Okay. First order of business, we would like to entertain a motion to approve 3 sets of meeting minutes from the March 15th subcommittee retreat, from our May 27th full body meeting, and the June 14th subcommittee retreat. Obviously, approving these allows us to make sure these are publicly accessible online. For members, you will have already received these drafts in your email. So let's look for a motion on that at this time. Winston.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? I don't believe we need to do a full roll call for these. I'll say all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Online. Any opposed? Any abstention? All right, so we have approved those 3 sets of meeting minutes. Water for this. So I'm going to go ahead and get into updates from our June 14th retreat. And we'll just walk us through these slides. Try not to do too much direct reading. And also if anyone would, at any time has a question or would like to jump in, please just indicate that by hand. So on June, the American Institutes for Research presented preliminary data modeling for 6 redistricting scenarios. They were requested by our team. So it's consideration, the redistricting continued for consideration were those that were the narrowed list down from, I believe it was 9 initially that we voted on the last full body meeting here at Redding Consortium. And those included a river plan type scenario of Brandywine and Red Clay School District sharing responsibility for the city of Wilmington, a Brandywine and Colonial School District division of the city of Wilmington governance, a Red Clay and Colonial School District division of the governance of the city of Wilmington, a Wilmington School District, a Metropolitan Wilmington School District, and a Northern Newcastle County School District concept. The data that was modeled for us to consider about the merits of these comparative options included the distance traveled, so it would be the distance a student would be traveling to attend the science school, proficiency data of, in terms of math and English, the 4th, 8th, and 11th grades, particularly looking at how many schools fell into that lowest quartile of proficiency. Also looking at graduation rates, schools falling below 75% of students graduating, and common absenteeism rate. So how many was about 20% rate there. It also included teacher experience, percentage of English language learners over a certain threshold, likewise students with disabilities, low income students, and also looking at suspension rates. And we started the day even prior to examining all of the data with anonymous polling of all those in attendance. We had, I don't know if maybe another team can put that, but we had how many people were in attendance? About 28 and 20 to 30 range, and these were members of the public were welcome, but this is predominantly members of our redistricting project subcommittees, fiscal impacts, operational impacts, and community engagement. So this actually shows both pre and post polls. Sorry, I was referring to the pre-poll. So the lighter shaded blue shows how people voted when given an anonymous opportunity to weigh in on which of the options merited further discussion, further research, moving forward, which was of course the goal of the day, was to further narrow that list. And so you can see very clearly how that shook out, with the Northern Newcastle County Consolidated School District receiving the largest share, followed by Brainway Red Clay in the morning, and then the Metropolitan Wilmington School District concept, with Wilmington School District pulling up fourth there, and no one expressing any interest in continual study of either of the districts, which included Colonial. At the end of the day, after having looked at data, and I think also having explored what was actually the definition for the purposes of the data we were looking at, how we defined and mapped a Metropolitan Wilmington School District, you can see that those numbers shifted significantly, particularly in that option area. And that was pretty much met with a retraction around the idea of Brainway Red Clay splitting the city. And this is, of course, represents members of those subcommittees intended to have a broad swath of stakeholder points of view. Moving on. So based upon obviously the darker blue responses after having gone through the activities of the day, reviewing data, having some pretty robust small group discussions, the group agreed to suggest the deprioritization of 3 of the 6 options. That would be, as we noted, the 2 city split options, including Colonial, which received no support for further study, and then also to now eliminate the Wilmington School District option in light of the low amount of support as well as data that's discussed at that time. And so that would be a motion that we will be considering after we hear from the public. So the 3 options that then would remain on the table should we adopt the motion that we had on our agenda tonight would include this Northern Newcastle County Consolidated School District model. That proposal consolidates all 4 of the school districts serving Northern Newcastle County. That includes Wilmington, Newark, all suburbs, essentially all of those 4 districts combined into a consolidated new district. So that's that concept. Next. And then this was one where people had more questions about what did this mean, which made a difference in their interest in it. The way we defined it for our purposes at the retreat was that it would consolidate the districts that serve students Brandywine and Red Clay school districts into one, what we would call metropolitan school district, and would further pull in, all of the city of Wilmington. So that would also include the footprints that currently stand in Colonial and Christina school districts into this consolidated metropolitan school district. So that is the metropolitan Wilmington school district concept. And lastly, the Brandywine and Red Clay split. So even though the word consolidated is in there, that's Red Clay consolidated as a standalone form, dividing responsibility for the education of all students within the geographical boundaries, sometimes called the river plan. The idea of perhaps dividing the city along the river is a clear geographic delineation to show which district is responsible for the portion of the city. But we have several variations that we will show map tonight. I'm going to talk just briefly through these bullets on what was the rationale that drove this prioritization that we noted in the discussion that we were hearing and the activities that were conducted for small groups. Really looking at prioritizing growth and efficiency. So wanting to make sure that we are able to retain district resources and maximize potential for, continuous improvement and growth, the potential to consolidate resources to the benefit of all of the school community, particularly students and educators. And then the priorities of innovation and equity. So I think this obviously we have a lot of bullets here. Something people talk quite a bit about, using this redistricting project as an opportunity for mindset shift, for an opportunity to do new innovative approaches to education. The ongoing goal of looking at how poverty is currently concentrated in some of the schools across the landscape and seeking an orientation which would maximize the opportunity to reduce that. Also ensuring that there is a maximization of experienced teachers, and also seeking to bring together in balance existing infrastructure with strengths with those where that has been lacking in recent times. And then we also have conversations around governance, community impact, as well as data points. Again, the potential to leverage this as an opportunity for a new approach to leading our school districts forward, and the opportunities that we might be able to see improved parent community engagement with unification of that governance as opposed to division across as many entities as we currently have. And then some of the data points that were particularly influential, of course, again, reduced concentration of poverty, and some perhaps red flags that were seen in some of the options in terms of what options were available, particularly to students who are traditionally underserved in the system, as well as some signs from suspension rates in this current school configurations. So maps. Oh, sorry, the wrong slide. Sorry, no, not yet. Oh, sorry. I told to talk more closely. Sorry about it online. If you struggle to hear that, but hopefully you're able to see the slides clearly. So some of the rationale for deprioritizing most of the 2 district options, this really was around the idea that while we asked in our interim report to consider 2 or fewer, the predominant feeling that 2 districts is still more fragmentation, which we know can continue to impact students' families. And so a bit of a gravitation towards having as little fragmentation as possible in the form of a singular unified district serving the city. And the idea that perhaps that would not allow full advantage to be taken of available resources, despite the considerable operational burden of the process. And again, other data considerations that informed this had to do with the current enrollments that we're seeing across the schools and forecasted enrollments over time, as well as what we're seeing in terms of teacher turnover and capital for building consideration. So now we will take a look at the maps that were shared at the retreat, just to give everyone a visual picture of what I described, and I talked through those three district options that we are looking to narrow down to. So this would be, if you look at the red line outlining those existing districts that are shaded in the different colors. If one were to convert in the direction of the Northern Newcastle County Consolidated School District, the red line would be the border of that unified district. Next. There we go. And then to illustrate the Metropolitan Wilmington School District concept, as I described before, you see that that would combine Brandywine and Red Clay, as well as all of the city of Wilmington within its geographic borders, which would then pick up, as you can see, small portions of what is currently the purple and yellow, Christina and Colonial. So that's the Metropolitan Wilmington School District. And then finally, we have three variations illustrating what a division of the city of Wilmington shared by Brandywine and Red Clay would look like. So just to make clear, I don't think I did before, this would obviously involve the Christina School District and the Colonial School District retracting and no longer serving residents in the city of Wilmington in the current footprint where they do at this time. And, you know, these are a couple of ways that one could draw that dividing line. In the middle, you see the traditional proposal for a river model, which just uses the river as that boundary. And then on the right-hand side, you see what we call the modified river model, which follows the river, but allows for Red Clay to retain some of the territory north of the river that they currently serve. So that, you know, if you think about the footprint around Warner and Shortridge Elementary Schools. And then of course on the left-hand side, you see what the boundaries look like currently. So just an update to remind us of where we are on the process timeline that we set up for ourselves last May May of 2024, when we approved our interim plan. We gave ourselves 18 months, which brings us to the end of this calendar year. And so today, here we are at our full body meeting, and our expectation for the coming months includes what you see on the screen. Further engagement of the community around these concepts. That also includes a formal educator advisory panel that has been created for the purpose of reviewing these models and data, as well as having our subcommittees continue to meet as needed. And then in September, we expect the final report from the AIR. And that will coincide with our final planned subcommittee retreat, which we are also billing as a co-interpretation event. And so that's an opportunity for us to work through collaboratively that data with that event as our goal for choosing the path forward in order for a redistricting plan based on one of the models to be drafted. And then we would have a full body meeting in October to affirm that. And begin to dig into the draft of a plan that would start to develop from our selection. And then, of course, we are in statute required to hold additional public hearings and the AR final report. I think I misstated that in September. It comes through then, reflecting all of our work in October. And oh, there's more. And then we would, of course, continue to utilize the last tranche of AIR's findings to make our redistricting plan complete, and then approve that. The Redding Consortium must then consider that final district plan for approval in order to send that to the State Board of Education. So our deadline for that consideration to happen would be December, so that right then in the new year, that plan can be submitted to the state board, and then they have 90 days to review and to go back and forth with our body about the contents of that plan. And then, of course, the expectation then is that our Controller General is able to review that plan and attach any necessary reporting, fiscal reporting to that. And then it would be subject to approval by the General Assembly and in June of 2026. So that is the process timeline. And I think we are going to go ahead and go through the big ideas document before we move into public comment. And then when we get to our motions, we can talk through any details and questions people may have. So I'm going to pass this over to you next.
Thanks, Senator. So these slides relate to this document that was part of the package that you should have gotten. That says further recommendations for action. And if it looks familiar, it's based on the back half of the interim plan that we approved last May. So this is the structure of this is about a year old. And what we are trying to do with this document and with this part of the meeting is, as you know, in the statute, there are certain things that we are required to recommend to the General Assembly in terms of changing school district lines. And then there's a list of other things that we may recommend. And it was, I think, been pretty much agreed throughout that although these are listed as mays, that for us, that this additional lift is also a must. And that if we just were to send down a plan to move district lines around and have some kids who were in one district today be in another district tomorrow, then that's not going to get done what we want to get done, which is to help kids have a better opportunity who are attending schools in the city of Wilmington. So what this list is basically an expansion of what was in of a list that was in the plan that we approved in May of last year. And what has been added to it and what we wanted to run past you tonight is 2 additional items on the list that have been added to it over the course of the last year as we've held public meetings and asked the public to give us their input on this list and as to whether it was complete or not. And then also some questions that need to get asked about all these different broad categories so that we can ultimately come up with some very specific options in terms of these recommendations that ask our finance committee, tell us what these things cost, so that when we have further public meetings, we can put these things out in front of the public in a more specific way and say, tell us what you think about this, all with the goal of keeping all of these things on track with the school district discussion, so that when we get to the point in the fall that we're voting to approve a complete plan, that is actually a complete plan and not just a plan involving school district lines. So what we're going to specifically ask tonight when we get to the end of the meeting is for the consortium number 1 to confirm for us that everything that's on this list in broad strokes ought to be on the list. And then also vote to create a smaller committee, a more manageable sized, frankly, committee that's going to sort through these things, try to narrow down some of the questions that we're asking so that when we hand them over to our finance subcommittee, that we're actually giving them a task that they can complete in this compressed time frame that we have. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through them, which I'm going to now do in very rapid fire form individually. The first one's titled Revenue Policy Reforms, and you don't see a lot of specifics here because we are essentially leaving it to the Community Engagement Committee to send anything back to us that they want to have us consider including. And part of the reason for that is that there are already other groups in the state right now that are very specifically talking about revenue policy. There's an entire state, is it PEFC? PEFC. I mean, there's an entire separate state statutory body that's talking about revenue. I understand that there are some other revenue discussions that may be going on in the near future in the General Assembly. So there are less specifics on that front. The specifics really start on the next page. We had included in the plan last May the possibility of including funding for a high quality early learning expansion in whatever the newly constructed school district would be as part of what we would recommend. And as you can see from this list of questions, there's all sorts of choices that go into how you cost something like that out. What exactly are you talking about? Is it ages 4 and 5? Is it starting earlier than that? Whether it would be geographically limited to schools in the city of Wilmington, or whether it would include early education for the families of everyone that would be living in the feeder pattern for this newly created district, whether it would be means tested or not. And then whether, given whatever the cost of that is that something that we would want to include in a final plan that we were sending to the state school board and the General Assembly for approval, knowing that the cost might be extraordinary, and if we want to have that as an item on the list with the, with the goal of sending something down that actually has a good chance of being funded and approved. So just using this as an example, we can't send this list to our finance subcommittee and ask them to run what's going to end up being a dozen or more different variations on costing this out for us. So the reason that we want to try to put together a smaller group is to try to narrow down the questions that we're asking them, so that we get 2 or 3 or 4 proposals for them to cost out. So going through the rest of these, and again, I'll do so quickly, most of them we've seen and discussed before. Premium pay policy in the high needs schools and whatever the newly created district is. And again, you can see the list of questions at the bottom here that need to get considered in terms of whether they should be retention based, whether they should be limited to certain schools, and if so, what the criteria should be for schools that have these bonuses. How much should the bonus be? Should there be prerequisites to getting the bonus in terms of teacher tenure or qualifications? There's just a lot of questions that have to be answered about how a policy like that would work. Wraparound services, whether the evidence justifies including those as part of a plan. How many of the schools should have outside school time wraparound services? Elementary, middle, high school, all of the above. What kind of quality control and monitoring from the state is necessary for those services? And then also whether that should include wellness center expansions. We, as a consortium, included wellness center expansions as part of the outside school time services that we recommended funding, and those have been very successful and very well received. They're also very expensive and have consumed a third to a half of the complete cost of the outside school time services in the schools where we fund them. So there's also just a question there of whether we would want to make that part of what we recommend. This next page is the 2 items that I mentioned that have been added over the course of the last year as we asked people what should be on a complete list. One is programmatic support for secondary school students, and this is really based on some of the recommendations that we've made as a consortium. For the last couple of years, we've recommended financial support of the Boost program, which is targeted at middle school students. And we've been pleased with the outcomes from that, and there was a suggestion that we might want to include some component of that in a final redistricting plan that was recommended. And then also programmatic support for efforts to reduce chronic absenteeism, which has been a problem for a while in schools throughout the state, but particularly in some of the schools that are a focus for our work. And in that area, again, a lot of work to be done and questions to be answered before we ask for the finance folks to cost this out for us, like what would that be? And there's a lot of different programs that are targeted at reducing chronic absenteeism, and what do we want to include, and what do we want it to look like? School choice and charter reform, again, was on the list that we passed back in May. And the questions here at the bottom are the ones that we need to get some answers to in terms of what we were asking questions about. And I'm not going to read through them, but they're not new questions about how choice programs work, how the charter process works, and a very specific concern that was raised at, I think, 2 of our 3 public meetings about transportation, that for a choice or charter program to really be accessible and meaningful for students, that there have to be there has to be transportation provided, to students who want to participate. And then this last item that's been on the list since May is institution of specialized programs at City of Wilmington schools, and these would be programs that would be physically located in schools in the city. And there's some examples provided in the document in terms of gifted and talented, IB programs, programs for children with special needs, arts programs. I can't remember what the fourth example we had in here was, math and science. And questions at the bottom, and some of these questions came up at the public meeting of who should have access to these programs, and then what types of safeguards ought to be included if we're instituting these types of programs, in terms of ensuring that students who are in feeder patterns for these schools have equal access to the programs, that we're not essentially creating two separate school systems within a single school. And there was some discussion about that in public meetings, and there's also some published research that is useful to us in terms of how that can be done and how those types of programs can be avoided. So, you know, the fact that I just talked so long about all this again is an example of why we want to try to set up a smaller group to narrow this down, get us some numbers for these things, get us some public feedback when there's something that's more specific than this for the public to react to, and then bring it back here for us to ultimately vote on as a group. And although we want it to be discussed by a smaller group, this will be done in public meetings. They're going to be noticed, so anyone either from the consortium or not from the consortium who, you know, wants to be part of the discussion will be able to be. But we're going to have to do this work quickly because we want, again, to stay on track with the districting work that we're doing.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is an opportunity if anyone has a pressing question or comment before we move into our public comment period. We would welcome it. Oh no, I didn't even see you there. Ms. Mathis?
I have two questions. One is I read through all this and maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything that relates to access or expanded services for English language learners. I believe that's missing from here. I thought maybe I don't know. And then I want to know who sits on the education advisory panel and how do they select? And will it be a diverse group of people?
For number two, that's exactly why we put this list out, and we should add it to the list.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I think that's one of those areas where we have to be careful not to just assume that it is implied because we're about equity. So I think making sure that we're explicit about that is very important. Thank you for bringing that up. In terms of the educator advisory panel, I do not have the list of names handy. I'm happy to go back and get that information for you. Stephanie N. Ingram is co-chair of our community engagement subcommittee, along with our council member Maria Cabrera, and it's been a charge of that subcommittee to establish that. So basically, I can get back to you with the list, and you can give us that
Just want to
feedback.
make sure that it's,
Yeah.
you know, that it's people sitting on there that look at all children and not just how it impacts adults.
Right.
Because we have a tendency in Delaware to think about the adults. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like I don't even need to give you the mic, but I'm getting people here, good in spirit. So we will get that list and share that with everyone. Anything else? Oh, yeah, Mayor Carney?
Thank you. This may not be a big idea, but it's an important issue, and that is the high school question. Whatever you decide to do with redistricting, already we have imbalances with respect to seats available and seats, not enough seats. And so if you make changes, as I hope we'll do with Christina in the city, you're going to exacerbate that problem, particularly for Christina. Now, that may come under school choice, although that's a little narrow for the issue.
I think that's a good point, potentially to look at that as, you know, what kind of programs might need to be made available in order to do that analysis. And, you know, I believe we somewhat deprioritized from our agenda that item, as we worked on alignment with the Wilmington Lion Collaborative, and it's definitely we can revisit in conversations with the collaborative moving forward as we refine this big ideas list. Anything else jumping out before we hear from members of the community? Okay, we'll hear from ourselves again soon. So right now, we are going to go ahead and move into public comment period. I just want to note, I know that for those who are online, there is a chat, and while we preserve that chat, we don't necessarily treat that as public comment in the same way. So I would encourage you to raise your hand if you have something specific that you'd like to get on the record, get public comment. It's not a Q&A session, we're just going to be taking this on and in order for it to impact our work moving forward. So we ask the comments be limited to 2 minutes if you are an individual speaking for yourself, and 3 minutes if you represent an organization. And we ask that you state your name and organization before giving your public comment. So we would just ask that if folks who are here in the room would like to offer public comment, you can raise your hand or stand. And if you are online, you can raise your hand. And so we will just give it a couple seconds, see if anybody has, okay. One in the room, we'll start in the room. Come on up, let's make sure, you need my microphone, or is there another one out there? Yeah, mine. There's not that many.
So I'll start. I'm Michelle Stucci. I am the talented and gifted teacher for Christina's Inner City Schools. And having been at the retreat that we had a very long and robust conversation as a public individual who lives in Red Clay in the city of Wilmington and has resided here for over 30 years, grown up and educated in the city of Wilmington. I used to teach at St. Paul's on 4th Street for 15 years before I took my current job. So I understand. I do want to acknowledge Mayor Carney's statement, and I do want to acknowledge Tizzy's statement that this is about the kids, and I want to make sure that this is on public record. A lot of people, when looking at the redistricting, are looking at the buildings and the districts. That is not what redistricting is. It's the map of the children that are physically living within the boundaries of our city of Wilmington and within boundaries of our actual school districts. I had a lot of people come to me and say, well, what about this building? That building's new, and that building. We're not talking about the buildings. We're talking about the city of Wilmington and the children that reside here and the families that reside here. So with saying that, and Mayor Carney, and there's been a lot of comment about there not being a public traditional high school within the city limits, having grown up with Wilmington High School back in the day. It is possible that as we look at this over the course of the year, once we come up with a model that is believed to be in the best interest of our children, then we look at the feeders and the buildings. And buildings can always be redesigned to be a high school or a middle school. Just for instance, for those of you that don't know, Red Clay City of Wilmington schools, our elementary schools are a K-1-2 and then a 3-4-5 at Warner. And Christina's city schools are 1-8, literally next door to each other. So we're already gonna need to look at some of those things to see what's in the best interest for all of our children. But I just wanna make sure that everybody is thinking about the kids and their needs. We looked at the population of ESL, and Ms. Montes, to your point, that was in the data that AIR did, because I drove down that data like there was nobody's business. And looking at the number of ESL kids were actually quite bad.
Thank you. Anyone else here in person like to offer public comment? Okay, it sounds like we have some folks online.
Yeah, Maureen Stone, under hand raised first, Maureen.
Maureen Stone.
Hi. My name's Maureen Stone. I live in the Brandywine School District. I'm gonna defer to you guys on all the educational and the school division stuff, but I just feel like as a resident, some of the things that people might be interested in, well, how are you gonna create the new district? How's the board gonna be? How's the administration gonna be decided? I think all of that should be addressed because the public doesn't like confusion, and it's helpful to know. I mean, what do you do when you have 3 school boards and you have people that are in charge of curriculum in 3 different districts. How do you decide who's going to be the new person? Who makes that decision? I still think even though that's not the kids, that impacts the kids, and we need to address that.
Thank you. Jason Heller. And Jason Heller?
Hey everybody, Jason Heller. I'm the president of Brandywine School District. I just wanted to make a couple comments before your vote, just some things that I hope everybody keeps in mind. I think as a local school board, our responsibility is to our local students and families. And I'm thankful for the comments I just heard about the fiscal subcommittee and the work that they're doing. But I think there still remains a concern with that fiscal portion, how it's going to impact students and families as we move forward. We know that WEIC did some extensive research on the cost of a lot of these same plans. And I just wish that there was discussion on that fiscal piece that was aligned with this discussion by this subcommittee on which options make sense to move forward. I just have a hard time thinking it's really responsible to select an option without a thorough understanding of the fiscal impacts and where those funds are going to come from. Like I said at the last meeting, right? I think we all agree that simply moving an imaginary line on a map doesn't change anything for even a single student without significant additional resources to support our students that are, that have the highest needs. So I'm just worried, with the absence of clear communication about the fiscal note and where that money is going to come from. And the concern that I'm hearing in my position is it going to fall on the back of the local taxpayers? And then secondly, I just want everyone to keep in mind, right, the mandate for this redistricting is to choose the least disruptive option. And I would love to see data presented along with each option that specifically addresses the disruption to kids, whether it be their feeder pattern, their building or district leadership, transportation, all the things that kind of come along with this. I'm just curious as to how, as a group, this group is choosing the least disruptive option without speaking about all of those points. But Senator Lockman, thank you for what you're doing, and I look forward to seeing the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. Anyone else, anyone change their mind in the room or online about offering a public comment for us to consider? No? Okay, going on. All right, so now we're gonna move into our consideration of motions for action.
Madam Chair, if I may make a motion, please, before we start eliminating options.
Yes, absolutely.
Good evening, my name is Lisa Lawson and I represent Brandywine School District. So I'd like to make a motion to not eliminate Colonial from our remaining options until further discussions can be had related to funding structure and least disruption.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comment or input from any members prior to the roll call?
I guess I just have a question. Lots of different ways.
Oh, here.
Just to clarify the motion, you want them to be on the table as a potential option because we discussed different combinations that we didn't feel met the overall objective, mostly in terms of concentration of poverty.
There, responsive comment or, oh, sorry.
Just gonna clarify. So just to clarify, I do understand what we've discussed. I think in light of especially what's going on with the property reassessment and people being very concerned about money that's being asked for. I think eliminating a tax base at this juncture wouldn't be in our best interest because we need to keep options open. This is going to cost money. And the more we eliminate, the more we lose tax bases that will then support the students who need the most.
I see another hand.
Well, Do you want me to give you a reason why I second your motion? I didn't even know you took that motion, but I took all this data that we got and I put it in AI. I stuck it all in there. And then I asked it a question. How are my students that are learning English and poor gonna fare if one of these scenarios become a district? And the district that came on top was the Metro and the Brandywine and Colonial District. Why? You want me to, no, that's it. Lower rates of absenteeism, more experienced teachers, and lower percentage of low proficiency schools. That's AI. I'm not saying that, I haven't, I mean, I'm not an expert in it, I haven't even know that, I'm just experiencing with it, and it's awesome. So that's why I second that motion.
Any other comment? That was a heavy, take a breath, okay? All right, well, so we have a motion and a second, we have a couple of comments. I mean, I'll just express my own concern, and the reason why I will be voting against it is simply because I think we have done a lot of examination of the option, and engagement with stakeholders as reflected in our conversation about our previous retreat. And I do think we're at a juncture where it's important for us to continue to move forward with deeper study of options that we think are viable and most likely to be successful in reaching, you know, many objectives we've been talking about for many years. So I'll be voting for us to continue to hone in on fewer options for deeper study, including all of the potential fiscal impacts. And note that one of the options on the table does still include the footprint of Colonial School District. And I think any option moving forward would have the opportunity to learn from what's been successful in all of our school districts. So that's just, I just want to say that in terms of my own rationale, but if no one else has any other thoughts or contribution, yep, Mayor Kern.
Yeah, I understand what's behind the motion, appreciate that, but I'm going to support the chair in this regard for the reasons that she said. Originally, I thought that the best way to move Christina out of the city. By the way, if you look at those maps, there's one thing that the maps show me. The map with Christina in the school district in the city makes no sense. I mean, just take a look at it. The purple, you have purple way over here. You know, this little blotch of purple in the city. And so I know there are a lot of social connections between parts of our city on the east side and the south side with Colonial and Route 9 in those communities. But I am, as the chair is, eager to move forward. And we've run into folks that have objected to including that.
Okay. Yes.
Do we know how long it would take for that data to get out?
I'm not even sure we know exactly what data is being asked of us specifically. I know that anything that, you know, is in a plan that we're moving forward that's going to have full fiscal implications attached to it. So, but part of the rationale for narrowing is to have the capacity to do that full analysis on what we consider to be the most viable options with which to move forward. But it's hard to say when I'm not sure specifically what's being asked for.
Yeah.
And I think there's always going to be more certainty and more questions that people are going to ask for, and that's been something that's happened consistently for many years now. Predominantly in service of inertia and not in achieving a new configuration to serve our suite. So with that, let's do a roll call. Oh, okay. Would you like to restate the motion?
The motion on the table is to not eliminate Colonial School District from the redistricting options until we look deeper into funding structure and least disruptive.
So just to clarify, a yes vote would not allow us to eliminate those from the list. I think that would put us in a position of eliminating us down, or getting us down to 5 rather than down to 3. And a no would allow us to move forward with the motion to advance 3 prioritized options. So yes, if you want to keep those in, no, if you do not. Okay, roll call. Aaron Boaz,
Yes.
Ayana Khan,
Sorry, yes.
hey, is this working okay? Can't tell how loud it is. Bettina Riveros. Daniel Woods. Superintendent. I'm sorry, Daniel, say that again.
Abstain.
Abstain. Superintendent Deirdre Joyner,
Yes. Deirdre Joyner, yes.
Superintendent Darrell Green,
Staying.
Senator Buxton,
Yes.
Superintendent Menzer,
Staying.
Jennifer Tompkins.
No.
Mayor Carney,
No.
Superintendent Jones, Kendra Brown,
No. No.
Superintendent Lawson,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Waite,
Yes.
Councilwoman Maria Cabrera,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
Yes. Am I voting no? That's what I'm saying. Maybe not.
Can we
You voted your.
rescind and restart? Okay, I'm sorry, then if people are vote how you want to vote, but I just want to clarify. Apologies, everyone. So we're gonna restart and reset. So the motion on the table, made by Superintendent Lawson is to not eliminate Colonial from our list. This is not the motion, actually, it's not the motion that's on the screen, which is probably very confusing for folks.
Oh,
So we're gonna take that off the screen. Sorry, everyone, especially for folks online. So the motion on the table is a new motion that's been introduced by Superintendent Lawson to essentially to bar us from removing Colonial from consideration until such time as we can offer some additional fiscal clarity specific to Colonial's inclusion. And so if you're voting yes, you're voting to keep a larger set of options in consideration. If you vote no, that would be if you're someone who wishes to continue to narrow down to the 3 options. And that was what we were speaking to in terms of if that's what you support, as Mayor Carney and I spoke to specifically, you would vote no. So just want to make sure we're going to retake it. If you voted yes, meaning to vote yes, that's your choice. And if you voted no, meaning to vote no, that's great. So to make sure everyone is clear what we're voting on. It was not what was on screen. Sorry. All right, we're going to start that again. Apologies, everyone.
yeah. Tizzy, I'm trying to write what you were saying so we can put it up on the screen. Or let me know if it.
I'm gonna hand the mic back to Superintendent Lawson again to say it for a 3rd time. I apologize.
Oh, I am totally confused. I'm sorry.
It's
What
not
is
your-
going on?
So the motion on the table, I can
There you
flip
go.
the motion if it's easier for folks.
Let's just keep further
The
explanation.
motion on the table is not to remove Colonial School District from our redistricting options at this juncture.
And I think part of the confusion is folks saw something up on the screen, which is not the motion that we were voting on, and that is our fault operationally. So you were not voting on that motion that appeared on your screen. We're voting on a new motion that has been introduced from the floor, so to speak. Not to eliminate colonial as we recommended at the retreat. All right.
Okay, so, excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Rare speaking. So if you're voting yes, you're voting yes to not remove it. If you vote no, you're voting that you want it removed.
correct. So
Okay.
essentially, yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Because I know, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm traveling and I finally got a signal and just jumped on. So right now, when we're looking at the students that attend Colonial, there is a very small percentage that are city children. The rest are Newcastle County, right? Am I correct in that?
Right.
And if we were to exclude Colonial, would we be putting in a process to get those kids from the city of Wilmington proper to be added to Red Clay or Brandywine so that they're not missing out on this opportunity and just leave the Newcastle County kids with Colonial? Is that something?
That hasn't been determined. We're just talking about whether or not we maintain the colonial in the list, further study.
Okay, I'm clear. Okay, thank you.
Right.
If-
Yeah. So it sort of runs counter to the discussion of the retreat.
Yeah, just to clarify for me, the northern Newcastle County Consolidated District includes Colonial.
Correct.
Correct, right? So we're not really eliminating Colonial yet.
Correct.
Okay, just, I understand that.
But we are going to be voting on our next motion, if this one is unsuccessful, to remove the two options where Colonial shares the city governance with one other district. Those were recommended essentially by our subcommittees for us to remove from consideration. This motion is saying, don't do that.
Senator Lockman.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Senator Eric Buxton. Yeah, I didn't anticipate the discussion, but I'm interested in it. I just want to clarify. If this motion passes, it doesn't change, it doesn't set up a delay or anything, right? It just adds another lane. Instead of 3, it's 4. Is that what we're doing?
5. So we're trying to go from 6 to 3. In
Okay.
order to suspend our limited capacity to study in more depth a narrower set of options. That based on data that we've looked at so far at our most recent retreat were deemed the most promising option. So this would, I think we could say that it would cause a potential delay, or it would impact our capacity to study the options on the table, and you know, we can't guarantee it would make it harder for us to keep on the timeline that we described, but I think it certainly could. And I think likely would.
Because my challenge is down here in Kent County doing this by way of Zoom. I respect the individuals that are on this call. And when I hear some folks vote yes and others abstain, it gives me pause to think maybe there's merit. But again, I'm listening to the discussion. I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, and I
Thank
think
you.
we have to service by, we had the wrong motion on the screen, and so there was a lot of confusion. I hope that we cleared up some of it, hopefully all of it. Did you want to
Okay.
add something?
I just want to make sure that what's on the screen now is
Yeah,
correct.
let's put up the correct motion.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity, before I pass the mic along, the statute does not require us to approve the least disruptive plan. If that was actually required by the statute, our job would be very easy, because the least disruptive plan would be to do nothing. So what the statute says is that one of the several components of the plan that we propose has to, and I'm just reading from it, has to include the orderly and minimally disruptive reassignment of students affected by the boundary change and the reassignment of governance responsibilities. So we're supposed to recommend whatever our recommendation is, we're supposed to recommend how to do that in a way that's minimally disruptive to students. And that's entirely appropriate, but we're not required by statute to recommend the least disruptive plan that's on the table. I just want to make sure that we don't have incorrect information on the screen when people are voting.
John Carney again. I think I'd like to just expand on the question or the point that Maria raised. This motion does not affect the option of the Northern Newcastle County Consolidated School District, which on the map includes those four districts. And number two, I heard some concern about not being a financial participant. That's easily rectified with the countywide pool, which has been used since December.
Very good. Okay. Deep breath. I think we can try it again. You feel ready? There is the motion.
Madam Chair, would it be clearer for the motion to say to add Colonial School District back to the list? I mean, I think that's a little bit more clear. I think it would make it clear that.
Oh, even said not remove.
Yeah, I think that's confusing a lot of folks. So could we say to add Colonial School District back to consideration?
I would just say keep.
Or keep, there you go, keep,
Sure.
there you go, keep.
But it remains true that if you're voting yes, you are essentially
Yeah, there you go.
keeping our list at 5 options. If you're voting no, it's probably because you're interested in narrowing down to the 3 recommended by the retreat participants.
I don't phrase it that way because we were in elimination mode, so.
I get it.
No worries. I'll wait for you in the
This part down here to Matt's point about language, minimally disruptive concerns, are we just gonna cut it to keep Colonial School District in consideration for redistricting options?
You could leave it at fiscal impacts.
Is the
And did it fiscal impact?
Yep.
Okay, so
motion and motion.
all right, let's, I will go ahead. So there is a motion to keep the Colonial School District in consideration for redistricting options due to concerns around fiscal impact. It was seconded, so that was, and, okay, I think we're okay. Aaron Bass,
With all that being said, my answer is no.
Ayana Khan,
No.
Daniel Woods,
No.
Superintendent Joyner,
Yes.
Superintendent Green,
Say.
Senator Buxton,
Abstain.
Superintendent Menzer,
Same.
Jennifer Tompkins,
No.
Mayor Carney,
No.
Superintendent Jones, Kendra Brown,
No.
Superintendent Lawson,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Waite,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Cabrera,
No.
Maria Matos,
Yes.
Matt Sen.
Nope.
Representative Chilcocha,
No.
Ray Jones Avery,
No.
Raymond Fitzgerald,
No.
Stephanie Ingram, Ron Williams, Deepa Hartsock,
Abstain.
Senator Lockman.
no.
It's not a pass. I'll get the.
The motion did not pass and Kelly is adding up the numbers. Thanks, Kelly.
All right. thank you everyone, for bearing with us. Apologies for the confusion. Yes, sure.
Yeah, 3 abstain, 12, wait, 3 yes. Oh, sorry. 3 yes, 12 no, 5 abstain. 3 yes, 12 no, 5 abstain.
Okay. So we can now move on to, our planned, the first of our planned motions. So we are now returning to, I think, the one some of you expected, and that was up on the screen prior. I'll read the text of this motion. I will make the motion. For a second. So this would be a motion that the Redding Consortium supports prioritizing the 3 redistricting options elevated by subcommittees, including Northern Newcastle County Consolidated, Metropolitan Wilmington, and a Brandywine and Red Clay School District. The subcommittees are empowered to conduct further research to identify a single recommended option. So that is my motion. I would look for a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Quick discussion from Aaron, just to be clear, to remember, what is different between Metro Wilmington and Northern Newcastle?
Thank you for the question. So Northern Newcastle County Consolidated would essentially take the 4 Northern Newcastle County school districts in their entirety. That would be Christina, Colonial, Red Clay, and Brandywine, and consolidate them into one unified district. I think the map would be put up there. A metropolitan district is essentially like an upper northern district, which combines Red Clay and Brandywine. And everything that sits within the geographic borders of Wilmington into one consolidated unified district. That's the difference.
Could you explain that again?
Thanks.
Yeah, so essentially, a metropolitan district would be one district, which includes all of the city of Wilmington. So the portions of Wilmington that are currently governed by Colonial and Christina would now be governed by this new district. And Red Clay and Brandywine would combine with those areas to make one unified district, a metropolitan Wilmington school district.
And that must be my old age, but I tend to wrap my brain around it. Isn't it the same thing?
No, because the metropolitan does not include the full footprints of what we now would call suburban Christina, and the Colonial School District outside of the city limits. Those would be excluded. Thank you. It's okay to ask questions, but I make sure people know what we're talking about.
Can I raise a point? This is
Yeah.
Cabrera. I'm sorry, I can't get to the raise hand feature quick enough. But I guess what is still open up for discussion is when you said river, the kids that are within the city of Wilmington boundaries, that means that some of those colonial kids that are city of Wilmington kids would move over to the metropolitan. They're not going to continue in colonial. I just want to be clear on that.
Correct.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm speaking.
No, I'm good. No, I'm good. Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you. And just to be clear, we're not voting specifically on these options apart from to advance these 3 as our priority for further study. So if there's nothing further, let's do a roll call vote on that motion to support prioritization of the 3 redistricting options elevated by the subcommittees, Northern Newcastle Consolidated, Metropolitan, and Brandywine and Red Clay governing Wilmington. This would empower our subcommittees to conduct further research to identify a single recommended option. Roll call. Aaron Bass,
Yes.
Ayana Khan,
Yes.
Dania Woods,
Yes.
Superintendent Joyner,
Abstain.
Superintendent Green,
Yeah.
Senator Buxton,
Yes.
Superintendent Menzer, Jennifer Tompkins,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Superintendent Jones, Kendra Brown,
Yeah,
Superintendent Lawson,
no,
Margie Lopez Wait,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cabrera,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
yes,
Matt Den,
Yes.
Representative Chakwocha,
Yes.
Ray Jones Avery,
Yes.
Ray Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Stephanie Ingram, Teron Williams, Tika Hartsock,
Yes.
Susie Lockman. Yes. There was 18 yes, 1 no, 0, oh, there was 1 abstain. The motion passes. Okay. All right, so that's our first order of business. I'm gonna let you make the next motion.
Involve ChatGPT.
when you say, can you put that back up, please?
Which, the map,
Right there, when you say conduct further research, have we identified what type of research we want to do?
yes, I mean, yes. Oh, sorry. We have a few streams of research. We have, you know, the Advanced Teacher Research, a lot of research. Being presented at the retreats for us to hone in. So that was what was presented, some of the data that I talked through loosely. So we have a small team that is engaged with AIR to help us understand, you know, the landscape of the communities being served by the districts to help inform what we think would be a better configuration to serve students. So that's, I mean, we can also get you a list of, and some of it was on some of the earlier slides, some of the specific things that are being looked at, characteristics of.
No, I went for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
Okay, I like that. Okay, back to you.
So I want to make 2 motions, one of which is to try to adopt the suggestion of my colleague Maria Matos by amending this further recommendations for action document that we had distributed before the meeting to add a 3rd item on the page that says additional state support for students in a new district. So there's already number 1 and a number 2, and I would like to move to add number 3, which is whether the Redding Consortium should recommend additional services targeted at ESL students as part of a proposed redistricting plan. And if so, what type and level of support should be recommended? And again, that's just adding that to the list of items that we will ask a smaller committee to narrow down for purposes of having costed out for us. So all these things will eventually come back to us. But my first motion would be to add that to the list in the document itself. You can second it since it was your idea.
Second. Do you want to add what it is that they need? I got a couple of things here.
That, I think that's what this smaller committee would do. Yeah.
You better have somebody in there that has ESL experience.
Let's do this motion first.
Okay.
Can you make it all one motion to approve with the addition?
That's a good idea. So I move to have us approve this list with the addition that I just recited. Still second?
Yes.
Do we want to be specific besides big ideas with the addition of the ELL population? You want to
Not
state,
ELL.
not, sorry, wrong thing.
Just keep it,
Or keep it simple.
simple, keep it simple. That's what we've learned tonight.
Do you want me to ask for it?
Yeah.
Okay, can we take a vote on the motion?
Discussion.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't see any hands. Is there discussion?
I just have one, just general question in terms of the support, and I'm not on the financial oversight committee, but the level of support that'll be needed for the financial oversight committee to do the level of fiscal analysis that may be required, to actually bring that data back. I know sometimes we're relying on individual school districts, but given the limited access to the broader state impact that would be needed, is there any additional support that the financial oversight committee may need to really look at not just what the big idea is, but the general implications of the initial approval that we just made? And I don't know if there's anyone from the co-chairs that may speak, or do they just feel like we can rely on the district to be able to provide that broad general financial analysis?
This is Aaron. So right now through September 30th, every district and LEA is trying to figure out their budgets. With that being the case, there'll be limited amounts of time that our committee will be able to dedicate to this. So we can do a cursory overview, which will include a lot of information we've already shared, but in-depth would require more support. Just FYI.
Other discussion on, or questions on this motion? We take a vote.
Actually, I have a question. A significant one, but perhaps, now that I'm reading motions, do we need to specifically be voting on the creation of the subcommittee to do what we have discussed it doing?
I was gonna do that as a
Oh,
separate.
is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good.
Aaron Bass,
Abstain.
Ayala Khan,
Yes.
Danielle Woods,
Abstain.
Superintendent Joyner, Superintendent Green,
Yes.
Senator Buxton, Superintendent Menzer,
Yes.
Jennifer Tompkins,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Superintendent Jones, Kendra Brown,
Yes.
Superintendent Lawson,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Wade,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cabrera,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
Yes.
Matt Den,
Yes.
Representative Kocha,
Yes.
Ray Jones Avery,
Yes.
Ray Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Stephanie Ingram, Ron Williams, Tika Hartsock,
Yes.
Senator Lockman.
Yeah.
There were 16 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstain. The motion passes.
So the second motion is to create I think we should call it a discretionary recommendations committee for the consortium, unless you want to call.
I love that. Go
Okay.
for it.
For purposes of narrowing down, questions for the financial evaluation and community feedback.
Sorry, well,
Motion to create a discretionary recommendations committee of the consortium. For purposes of narrowing questions for financial analysis and community feedback.
very avoidable motion. Lawyers people in.
So that's the motion.
Second? Unless someone.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Questions or comments?
Just I want to put notice so it's on the record, for one of the initial options that we just voted on for the committee or the discretionary group. To focus on specifically, the premium pay policy in high school in terms of aspects of collective bargaining for LEAs and really taking that into context in terms of will that require a local match for any financial decision that may be made as a part of that group. So just flagging that so that it is on the record for make sure that that's a consideration in terms of pay policy.
I'm just looking at the screen. There's a word, it should say discretionary recommendations.
Sorry. Mayor Carty.
Yeah, thank you, John Carney again. I just want to put a plug in for improving access to before school, after school, extended day programs, really important, something that we in the city are hoping that we can help with.
Other questions or comments? Take a vote.
Notes. You have a question? Hold on, I think Representative Pocha may have a question in a moment. Or two. It is. All right, he retracts his question. All right, I think we can move on to the roll call now. Aaron Bass,
Yes.
Adam McCon,
Yes.
Daniel Woods,
Yes.
Superintendent Joyner,
Yes.
Superintendent Green.
Yes.
Senator Buxton. Superintendent Menzer,
Yes.
Jennifer Tompkins,
Yes.
Mayor Carney,
Yes.
Superintendent Jones, Andrew Brown,
Yes.
Superintendent Lawson,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Wait,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cabrera,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
Yes.
Matt Den,
Yes.
Representative Jokocha,
Yes.
Ray Jones Avery,
Yes.
Ray Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Stephanie Ingram, Ron Williams, Tika Hartsock,
Yes.
Senator Lockman.
Yes.
There were 19 yeses. The motion passes. Great. Well, that concludes our business agenda. I will just briefly go over what we can expect to happen next. Despite not some matters on that, but they still stayed on track pretty well with timing tonight. So what we can ask folks to look out for is a information related to parent and family engagement with the options still on the table, as well as educator advisory panel town halls. So general community engagement to get more feedback and to shape our future work and continue to do research on the options before us. And then in September, we will have our third subcommittee retreat, which will include the co-interpretation of the data that we have from AIR at that time, and that is open to the public as well. Oh, and just as a note, thank you, Representative Chakosha. Representative Chakosha and I will be at the State Board of Education offering a general process update to its members on August 21st. So if that's something that you're also interested in hearing about, I believe they have public comment opportunities there as well. Please mark your calendars so it's an evening meeting and there's a virtual opportunity to participate. And with that, so I would make a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Second? All right, cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here and participating, and we will see you out there. Thank you.